My cultural upbringing as a Muslim actually really has informed my career and the fact that I focus on sexuality. My family doesn't represent every different kind of Muslim family by any means, but I think that they are representative in that sex was not talked about for the most part, right? And that's not Muslims alone. A lot of Christians, Jews, various individuals have a difficult time talking about sex in their families with their children, right? But I had this intense curiosity about sexuality and why it was so not talked about in my family. Whenever I did try to bring it up, my mom would freak out, it was very, they would, not only would they wouldn't necessarily come right out and say, this is bad, we don't want to talk about this, they would try to change the subject in some capacity. I remember specifically watching a movie where a child used the word penis, and I thought I heard, and I didn't really know what it was, but I knew it had something to do with sexuality, and I said, what's penis? And she goes, he didn't say that, he said peanuts, and I was like, and I knew, that was the first time I caught my mom in a lie, because I knew that's not what they had said, and I was like, wow, somebody who I know feels strongly about lying chose to lie about this. She lied to me about this. I have a pretty good understanding of our religious prescriptions and the religious texts, and there's actually not very much in Islam that outright prohibits the talking about sex, or sex is actually not something that's really seen as very taboo, and it's definitely not shameful. It's considered one of the gifts of God, right? And so talking to other Muslims about sexuality is actually not that hard when I start introducing these things. I'm like, oh, did you know that the Prophet said this, about sexuality, and this is how he viewed sexual relations with his wife, or whatever, wives, and they can kind of relate to it. And I also find that a lot of Muslim folks really do want to talk about sexual relationships. They want to talk about sex, but they don't know who to talk about it with because they're embarrassed or haven't had that opportunity in the past. So I actually enjoy talking about what I do with Muslim people because I feel like they're like, oh, that means I can talk to her and she's not going to judge me about it, And so I'll get messages on Facebook from Muslim friends who I haven't been in touch with in a while because they see me as she's not my kind of Muslim anymore, but they will talk about this. They're like, oh, you're Muslim or you're raised Muslim. They think that this has happened in spite of that, oh, you must have been so repressed as a child and that's why you're doing this, which is kind of somewhat, it's not entirely inaccurate, and so they don't think that I'm representative of Muslim individuals, so it's it doesn't change their preconceived notions of Muslims because they see me as an other, they don't see me, they don't lump me with the Muslim community anymore when they know what I do. They're like, oh, well, you're an anomaly. I always knew our culture had the potential for resulting in an election like this. I've lived it, I've seen it. I've seen the racism, I've seen the xenophobia, I've experienced it. I used to wear hijab. Our high school friends who talk to me now who are like, I would have never have spoken to you in high school because you wore that scarf because I was afraid of you, And this was pre 9/11, And they're like, I thought you were weird, I thought you didn't speak English, I thought all these different things about you, And now I see, oh, you're a sex researcher, and that's really cool, and you do this, and you do all those different things, and I wish I'd known you in high school. And I was like, well, so all that's changed is this garment has been removed, right? That entire first week of the election, I had a hard time getting out of bed. I didn't want to go in front of my classroom because I was paranoid. I was like, who in my classroom hates me? Who voted for him? And who is against me? And it became very personal. They tried to just ignore as much as they were in denial about what all the other hateful things that he was saying, right? And I think these are people like my father-in-law. I think he absolutely does not agree with Trump's hateful things, right? But he hates Hillary. He just does. He thinks that she is against him. She's going to take away his rights. The way I feel about Trump, he felt about Hillary, And so, while he's not offended that I voted for Hillary, and I am offended that he voted for Trump because he actually had policies in place that he was proposing that were anti-Sophia. They were literally anti-Sophia, and she didn't have any that were anti-Larry, but he still interpreted them that way. Having a number placed on how many individuals voted for somebody who said these things, who were willing to risk his hateful policies. I was compromisable. The fact that I need to do that to convince other people is just I don't know, that's so depressing to me. That's asking me, somebody who's already marginalized, who's already either invisible or hated, to face somebody who's refusing to see my existence, to be like, no, I exist, see me. I don't want to convince somebody who I've lived next door to, you know, for the last 4 years that I exist anymore. I want them to be able to see it. I want them to do it on their own, and I know they're not doing it. I know they're not. I'm gonna need people like you, William, to do it for me. I'm gonna need other people who they do see as existing to do it, because I just like my humanity already hurts too much to be able to have to go in front of people and try to convince them. I think that's just gonna eat away at me even more. Like I need to, like I feel a little bit more insular, and I know that's scary too. You know, we don't want that. At least for a little while, I have to be self-protective. I have to protect my boys. I have to protect my kids a little bit and not put myself in everybody's face as much as I have my entire life. Like my whole life, I have been like, no, like I do those, like especially the relating thing. Since I was in elementary school, I remember doing this with people who thought I was different, who I thought I was foreign, you know, that I didn't live here, that I wasn't from here, you know, that like, no, like my parents do that too, or we do Thanksgiving, oh yeah, we get a turkey, we do these things, because people didn't believe us, you know, that we celebrated the same things that they celebrate because we looked different, or because we were from a different religion. I wanted to do that because I thought it was going to have an impact, but after 33 years, seeing that like, this is still where we're at, and so many other people like me have been doing this, have been trying to convince other people, and it's not working. The best I can do is put on my professional face and keep doing the professional work I do, and keep getting in front of my classroom. Every opportunity I have to give a personal story for them to relate to, I do, because I know that humanizes me for them, and that they will leave knowing one more Muslim brown woman who they're like, she actually was like me.